Okay, listen. I want to make sure this is very, very clear. Okay. What happens? We make this jump, and they say, well, like, hey, because Montrezl Harrell said B-ass white boy, would you be Gottlieb? What if you called somebody a B-A-N-word? Like, hey, listen, let's just be honest here. There isn't a word to describe a white person that compares to the N-word. It just doesn't. Okay? So don't say even cracker doesn't compare to it. And if you want to look it up and figure it out, but the rest of us are all very well aware that there isn't a comparison of the two. Okay? Now, I can only tell you, I haven't played basketball, that my dad his nickname at Rucker Park was the white boy from Long Island. That's it. And yeah, dudes are going to call you a B, and they're going to try and challenge your manhood. That's the sport. And what we're doing is sometimes we're taking the core of what the sport is about because it feels weird socially in a time in which we're starting to understand some of the other flaws in our society. I had no problem with Montrezl Harrell, what he said to Luka, and I definitely had no problem with Luka saying, haha, no problem. Let me stick 43 in your eye, including the game-winning three. That's the way the sport works. Let's get to Ric Bucher, who's covered it for years. There's a lot of, when he played soccer in the Ivy League, you would not believe the trash talk and the racial epithets that were hurled his way.
No, you know what? Actually, I've heard my fair share of that from actually playing in San Francisco, playing in the men's leagues, and being a white boy among a lot of Latinos. You had to know Spanish, but you knew what you were being called.
Totally. Hey, listen, I know all the Spanish curse words from growing up in the city of Orange in the Barrio El Medina. I know what I was called. Like, I just, maybe I don't do the victim thing or whatever. Like, all right, cool.
Yeah, look, see, well, look, here's my take, and I think everybody has a different one. Or, you know, they see it through their lens. And I think our great problem is that we don't spend enough time trying to see the world through other people's lenses and understand why they see it the way that they do. I certainly had my time on pickup courts, playing hoops. And I just, there's one, situation that stands out distinctly to me where I went and I played, and there was a brother there who was just angry that there was a white dude on the court.
Yep.
And I was fascinated by how he was so angry at me. And I think it was the first time I'd ever seen him there when I was, I played there a lot. It was the first time I can remember seeing him. And I realized, dude, I get where your anger might be coming from, but that's not me. Like I am, you're objectifying me. And so I didn't take it personally. Now, is there a double standard? Yeah, for sure. There's a double standard.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't even have to be the N-word for Luka. If Luka said, any white dude in a sport dominated by black athletes, if you start whatever you say with a color, black, brown, yellow, whatever it might be, you're on slippery turf. And then using the word boy to a brother, again, not something that would be advisable unless you want to start malice to palace too. So, this is where I look at the things that are said in competition, however they're said, whatever they're said, and whatever is said. And it's the fabric, particularly of professional sports, but it's part of the fabric of competition.
Yeah.
We want to apply social mores.
It's not
to competitive situations.
It's a different world.
I don't think you can.
Totally.
Exactly.
It's a different world. Like, look, I had guys that I played with at Oklahoma State that one was super, obviously black guys make fun of their own different complexions, right? Light-skinned dudes, yellow dudes. And then, of course, there's purple, right? Where you're so black, you're purple, right? And that be like it's roundly discussed, regardless of if you're so pale that you're translucent, right? Or if you're trying to pretend to be your brother and come back all tan from the summer, like all these things are discussed, which you would never talk about in public, but in the confines of a locker room on a basketball court, you would. Ric Bucher joining us. Today is 8/24. It's Kobe Day. I think I thanked you, but I don't remember if I ever thanked you on radio. Some people may remember I had a tweet. I don't know, it was like, I'm trying to think, 7 years ago maybe, and it was kind of poking fun at the irony of Kobe Bryant taking a harsh anti-police stance when, by my estimation, the police had kind of protected him in Newport Beach where he lived, and it did not go over well. I reached out to you. You sent me his number. I texted Kobe. We were all good. Kobe and I became friends. Today's Kobe Bryant Day. Yeah. So how did it work? Right? Did he text you with stories? Did you call him? Was there a go-between? Tell us how it really worked, because you were the one that had all the good Kobe stuff.
Yeah, no, I just got to know him very early on, and I got to talk to him with the notebook closed, and I don't know, we connected, and I felt like, especially early on, like he was getting beat up a lot by Shaq and by a veteran team. And I saw a kid who just wanted to be great. Right. And at the same time was a teenager and wasn't necessarily, like, he wasn't polished enough to, I'm just going to take it. I'm not, I'm working hard. Screw you. I'm going to compete against you every day. And you had vets who were like, hey, kid, know your place. Kobe's like, my place is where I decide my place is. And guys didn't appreciate that. And there might have been smoother ways for him to do it. But I would never knock somebody who went after it the way that he did. And I expressed that to him a couple times. Like after the air balls against Utah, everybody was just crushing him. And I looked at it and said, man, you got to have some guts to shoot an air ball and then shoot another one. Right. And then say, I'm going to shoot another one. Right. And I mentioned that. It was kind of a simple thing. We were in the hallway and I said, look, I know everybody's killing you. I go, man, I thought that took guts. And I know that, there's going to come a time where you're going to knock those down. And he goes, he kind of looked at me and he kind of smirked. He goes, I'd take every one of those again. But I think moments like that, as a result, he allowed me to tell his story. And so he gave me access to him that he didn't give anybody else. And the hardest part for me was because I appreciated that. And I admired just his drive and his zeal and his everything, was that there were still, he was still young. He still made mistakes. And I had to acknowledge those mistakes when he made them. And what I really appreciate about him is that he allowed me. I didn't have to. And I did it thinking that if he cut me off, he cut me off. But look, this is my job. I got to call it the way I see it. But he accepted that. Like, if the criticism was legit, I never heard once from him that wasn't fair, or that wasn't it.
I think the other part that's interesting to me is how he kind of found himself, right? Like when he first got to the league, he talked like Jordan. He clearly wanted to be Jordan, right? Mm-hmm. Then he went through when Jordan retired, he was did a rap album. He's trying to be hood, right? And there was like a different persona. Yeah. And then later in his career, he did have the kind of confident, almost to the point of being arrogant, kind of businessman. And then by the end, he was just so comfortable. He finally got comfortable in his own skin. Like, look, here's a dude who grew up in Italy. He's multilingual. He's worth, I'm sure, over $100 million. And he frankly, linguistically was so far advanced from anybody he was talking to. you were like, wow, he suddenly has become the smartest guy in the room. But like watching him become comfortable with himself and understanding that his intelligence was actually a good thing and wasn't something to be hidden was really interesting to me.
Yeah, and look, I'm a few years older. I was a few years older than him, and so I was given a chance to grow up, and I was allowed to go through my transformation, and that's what I saw him going through. I saw him trying to figure out who he was and doing it in a very assertive way. I grew up with German as my first language. I grew up in a family that where I'm a first generation American, and so there were certain life experiences that I had that we could connect with as well that were very unique. And he was always fascinated by those things. I will also say, in my own way, as I don't know, as arrogant or egotistic as Kobe can come off, I can be that. I can be that too. And I remember saying to him one time, because I said to him, I said, I'd like to do a book with you and do it about your process and how it is you go about continuing to build your game and move forward. And he was like, I'm not doing that. I don't want to give away any of my secrets.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, I can't believe it, but I am more confident than Kobe Bryant, because if anybody coming up behind me said, so how is it that you do what you do? I'd happily tell them, because while they're working on trying to get where I am, I'm going to the next level. I'm working on the next thing. So they're not going to catch me. And I've left something behind that someone gave to me. And so we had that conversation, and he kind of laughed, and it was like 2 years later, he's coming out with
his book.
He's doing a book with about that very thing, and so I tweeted it today. It is so hard for me to imagine that he's not here. He was such a presence, and it was such a joy just to check in with him. And in the later years, I wasn't doing stories as much. We talked more about family than we did anything else. And he would always, whatever kind of mood he was in, if you started talking family, he would light up. And I saw that from the very beginning with him. I knew that there was this complete other side to the great white shark that we saw on the court.
Well, that's the voice of Ric Bucher joining us here on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. Give me some context on Luka Doncic.
He is taking advantage of the Clippers not paying attention to detail and certainly not trying to give him any undue attention, thinking that we can win this series without having to stop Luka. I think it's been amazing to watch. It's been fun to watch. He's the best player in the game. Can we slow down? You have to be able to play at both ends to be that kind of a player. And is he making an effort defensively? Yes. But can he be exploited? Yes. And when he's matched up against Kawhi one-on-one, the game suddenly gets really hard for him. The Clippers just have not, you tell me, I have not seen a whole lot of hard doubling or trapping to get the ball out of his hands. I've seen a little bit of it, but it's look, I don't want to take anything away from what he's done. It's exciting, it's entertaining, but we're 4 games into his postseason career, and the Clippers aren't really playing anywhere close to their potential, and he's exploiting it, and now he's the best player in the game. I hate when we do this, because what's going to happen is he's going to get yanked back. People are going to pay more attention to him. They're going to take some things away, and then suddenly it's going to be what happened to Luka. Nothing. We jumped too far too fast.
I agree with you. I mean, that's actually what we started the show with. We call it FTCIS, first to call it syndrome. Oh, he's the next Larry Bird. Oh, he's the top 5 player in the game. He could be an MVP. All the draft guys had it wrong. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, but like, we just did it with Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard was, suddenly surpassed Steph Curry, even though Steph Curry's outplayed him every time they played against each other in the playoffs, right? Just because Steph's not playing. Like, we just do this. And to me, it takes away a little bit from our enjoyment.
We did it with Steph, too.
Yeah.
I mean, we do it with everybody. We jump too far ahead or we give them too much. We've done it with Anthony Davis. We did it with LeBron James. This desire to suddenly peg. I love the title that you gave it, but this idea, like, what did I see? Oh, I think it was Hoops Hype put out Luka Doncic's stats versus Michael Jordan's playoffs. I'm like, don't even do that. Why do that? Because now you put me in a position of saying that's uncalled for and it's ridiculous. And now, I have to be negative about Luka Doncic. I don't want to be negative about Luka Doncic. I love watching him play. I love the game he has. There's so much that I love about him. But the second you start making preposterous statements about him, I got to pull up and say, nah, that's not accurate. And now I'm having to be critical about a guy that does not deserve that.
Is there a coach that can fix the Sixers?
No, not if you're thinking that they're supposed to be championship caliber, because they're not, and they don't have a player that the process did not deliver a player that you can build around. You can't build around Joel Embiid. You can't build around Ben Simmons, not as your best player. And the difficulty is both of them are just talented enough that it's going to be really hard to find a player better than them who also has leadership skills. But that's the only way that it's going to work, is if you find a player that's better than either one of those guys, and they're guys that actually hold themselves accountable and can be the hardest worker on your team, because neither one of those guys fits that description.
Awesome stuff. Ric Bucher, Bleacher Report. See him on Fox Sports 1 as well. Buke, hope you're well. Thanks for joining us.